for our earth craft, we are going to make a woggle. We are using green and blue paracord to make our woggle, to represent the green of all the land on earth and the blue of the water on earth. For your paracord woggle, you will need some paracord, a pair of scissors, and it's really important that your scissors are metal, not plastic, because they could melt otherwise. They also need to be sharp enough to cut the paracord. Please make sure that you do get adult help with that if you need to. A tea light or a lighter, and again you might need some adult help with that. If you are using a tea light or a lighter, please make sure that you have a heat-proof surface to do it on, which could be a plate, it could be a heat-proof mat if you have one hanging around. You might want to use some tape so that you can remember which end of your paracord is which. So to start with, we're going to choose which colour is our base and which colour is going on top. I'm going to have green paracord as my base, so I'm going to start with the green one. You need to fold your paracord in half. Then take 2 fingers, or 3 if you've got particularly little fingers, and you put the loop at the back. Can be a bit tricky to hold sometimes. Bring the other ends up and poke them through that loop and pull, just like that, and it should look like that. The next thing we're going to do is to just put these at each side so that we know which end is which. Now, to match the instructions, this end here is our A strand, and this end here is our B strand. So we're going to put the tape on our B strand so that we can remember which side is which. So we'll just pop that on there and then we'll know. We won't get mixed up. There we go. So we'll pull that knot there, just like that. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our B strand and we're going to lay it across. Don't do it too tightly because we need this loop here later on. So you just gently lay it across these 2 middle strands. Then we take our A strand, we put it over our B strand. So you need to make sure that it's over this B strand. We then put it under our 2 middle strands. This can be a little bit fiddly, so don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. So we've now got our B strand in a loop placed over our 2 middle strands, and our A strand in a loop over our B strand and under our 2 middle strands. We then poke it up through this loop that we made, so it looks a little bit like a pretzel, and we pull both sides nice and tight. The tighter we're able to pull them, the neater our finished woggle will look. So we pull them really tight. Now the middle of this woggle needs to be about 2 to 2.5 centimetres, so just make sure you've pulled it tight enough that it's going to make an effective woggle. It's not going to fall off your necker because it's too loose. So just have a little bit of a fiddle until you're happy that it's about the right size and that you've pulled these ends tight enough. And again, they can be a little bit slippy, so Don't worry if it takes you a minute to get it nice and neat. So now we've got our A strand on the right hand side and our B strand on the left hand side. This time we're going to pick up this side, so it's always the B strand first, and lay it over the two middle strands again, just like we did last time but from the other side. Make sure you leave that loop again so we've got something to come up through. We then take our A strand, we put it over our B strand just like before, and we poke it through the middle until it comes up through that loop that we made. So it's exactly the same as before, just going from the other side. And remember, we always start with the B strand. So then we carry on doing this all the way around until we are back where we started. So I'm going to show you another couple and then we'll fast forward and you can pause the video and we'll meet back when we're there. So we'll just show you one more. You take the B strand, you place it over the two middle strands, then take the A strand, pass it over the B strand, under the two in the middle, and up through that loop that you created with the B strand. And then you do exactly the same on the other side. You go over the two in the middle, you bring your A strand over your B strand, you poke it through the hole under those two middle strands and bring it up through the loop that you made. And now we'll fast forward so you don't get bored of watching us, and we will see you back here when you're round at the other side. Now once you've got all the way around to the end, you might notice that it looks a bit untidy, with bits of paracord hanging around and a little bit of fraying. What we do now, and if you've got little fingers, you may well need an adult's help for this bit because it's really fiddly and it involves a tea light. So we cut our cord as close as we can to the woggle, like that. Careful with your fingers. Then what we do is we light our tea light on our heat-proof surface, or we get our lighter if you're using a lighter. Now remember to do this safely, strike away from you and light your tea light carefully. Hoping this one will light, because it's not a new one. I think that's got it. Remember, blow your match out and leave it on the heat-proof surface. Then what we do is we take our paracord woggle and we hold our ends over the flame so that they melt, and we use a metal bit of our scissors to push it in to secure it. So we very carefully melt that end and push it in, and it makes it neater and stops it from fraying as well. You can see what you're doing a bit better with a lighter than you can with a tea light, but I find a tea light a bit easier than a lighter. So now we do this side, and remember, don't push it with your fingers, push it with the scissors because it's really hot, it's melted the plastic. So we've now secured our ends. And once it's cooled down, you can touch it with your fingers, but not until it's cool. So we blow our tea light out. We don't need that again just yet. Careful with the match, don't do what I did. And now we're going to take our second colour. We're going to do something very, very similar with this colour, but we're using our first colour as our base. So poke your second colour through the woggle you've just made. Make sure it lines up. So it folds in half around our base. Now we start where we ended last time. And what we do is we do something very similar to before. So I'm just going to pop some tape on our B strand again, because remember, we always start with our B strand, and I find that easier to remember which side is which, because I'm very forgetful. So we do exactly what we did before. We pass the B side over our base, making a loop. We take our A strand, we put it over our B strand, under our base in the middle, and then up through our B strand, and then we pull it nice and tightly. The first one especially, you want to make sure it's nice and tight to keep it in place. Then we're going to do exactly what we did before. We're going to take our B strand, put it over the middle, take our A strand, pass it over the B strand, under the base, and up through the hole that we made, the loop that we made with our B strand. And then we pull each end tightly and wiggle it and jiggle it till it's exactly where we want it to be. Like that. Then we do the same again. We make our loop over our base, take our A strand, we go over, under, through, and then we pull them tightly together till they're where we want them to be. Now I'm going to speed up this video again so that we don't bore you. So you can watch me do it in super quick time, and we'll see you when we've made it all the way around and back to where we started.
Once we've finished going all the way around our woggle, just as we did before, we'll have two dangly bits left at the end. What we need to do is we need to relight our candle or our lighter, and very carefully, just as we did before, we need to melt the ends, and we need to press them down towards the woggle using our scissors, the metal bit of our scissors. It's really careful that we don't use our fingers because it is molten plastic and it will hurt. So just press those ends right into the woggle, as we can see here. And once that's done, they shouldn't come loose again because we've sealed the ends off. And that is the finished woggle. So now we can go and pop it on our necker.